mining in Canada has been around for over 300 years. In the early days, coal miners used pickaxes and shovels to dig it out. And many people think of that back-breaking work in underground tunnels when they think of coal mining. Those days are long gone. Today, coal mining in Canada is modern and highly mechanized, with one of the best safety records of all national industries. And coal is more important than ever. Our use of coal today can be seen all around us. It supplies electricity to many Canadian homes, schools, and businesses. It provides instant light and makes it possible to watch TV or listen to the stereo. But that's only part of the story. Coal is also used to make coke. Not this coke, but this kind. It's processed coal, and it's important for making steel. It's what helps give steel its strength. Coke is simply coal that's been baked in hot ovens to remove certain gases. It's then mixed and burned with iron ore to make steel. The legs of this desk are made of steel, and that means coal was used to make them. The same goes for the hinges on this door, and for the clock on the wall. There's steel in everything from computers to telephones, and that means coal was needed. In Canada, the coal industry has changed a lot since the early days. We still have some underground mines, but most Canadian miners have never seen an underground tunnel. They work above ground, operating heavy equipment, or even computers. Most of Canada's coal is mined from the surface, with machines doing all the heavy work. There are always better ways of doing things. The Canadian coal industry uses the most up-to-date scientific methods, not only to mine coal better, but to use it better too. These same scientific methods are used to protect the environment. Specialists study wildlife, soils, air and water around mines and power plants. And coal is very important in Canada. Thousands of jobs in other industries rely on coal. It's the railroad's single largest source of income, larger than any other product, including grain. Coal is transported across Canada and around the world. In fact, it's one of Canada's most important exports. Across the country, lots of people rely on coal for their jobs. Some work in coal-fired power plants. Others manufacture heavy equipment used in mining, railroads, and the shipping industry. And steel makers in Canada and around the world use coal to produce most of their steel. So you see, coal, just like this, is all around us. It produces the electricity we use every day. It's used to make the steel in our cars and a host of other products. It's an important export, and coal creates thousands of jobs for Canadians. Coal began to be formed millions of years ago, even before the age of dinosaurs. Back then, Canada had a tropical climate, and warm seas washed over what are now the Rocky Mountains and prairies. This piece of coal is made from plants. When the plants died, they fell into lagoons like this, and eventually decayed. Over millions of years, so much earth and rock collected on top that the decayed plants were compressed into layers of hard coal. Today, we call these layers coal seams. This is a fossil of one of the hundreds of plants that went into making coal. It took this much vegetation to make a layer of coal this thick. Most of Canada's coal is found in the western provinces. There are smaller deposits in the Maritimes and elsewhere in Canada. Over 90% of Canada's coal is mined from the surface. In the mountains of Alberta and British Columbia, the coal seams are folded and twisted, and open-pit mining is used.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
The overlying rock and earth are removed. The coal is mined and hauled to a preparation plant where it is cleaned. This coal hauler carries 150 tons, quite a bit more than your average half-ton pickup. As mining progresses, the pits are made wider and deeper to get at more coal. Another kind of surface mining is used in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick, where coal seams are relatively flat and close to the surface. Coal seams are removed in strips, so it's called strip mining. Draglines, which are among the world's largest land machines, scrape away soil which is stored nearby. Once the coal has been removed, the dragline walks to a new strip of land and begins the process all over again. Canada has 5 underground mines, 3 in Nova Scotia, 1 in Alberta, and 1 in British Columbia. The coal seams are deep in the earth, and machines mine the coal from underground tunnels. Automated conveyors then carry it to the surface. At one mine in Nova Scotia, the tunnels reach out for 3 miles under the ocean floor. Coal mining is only a temporary use of land. As areas are mined out, land reclamation begins. Land reclamation is an important and ongoing part of coal mining and involves returning all mine sites to a condition as good as or better than existed before mining. Coal companies spend years reclaiming mine sites, like this one, and we'll take a more detailed look at reclamation in the environment segment of this program. But they also spend years planning a mine before it opens. Coal companies meet with local governments and communities to get their ideas about how the mine should be developed and ways to protect the environment. They spend years studying ecological systems to understand the pre-mining environment so that as mining proceeds, they can choose the best way to reclaim the land. Most of Canada's coal is mined from the surface, and a small amount is dug by machines from underground. What happens to the coal once it's mined? Most of the coal used in Canada goes to make electricity. Steam trains helped make Canada a nation. When the Transcontinental Railroad was completed in 1885, it linked the entire country. Thousands of settlers came west on the train, and industries in central Canada could move their products by rail. And what did these trains run on? You guessed it, coal. Looking back even further, coal has been used for thousands of years. Ancient civilizations used coal to heat homes, for cooking, and as a fuel. Coal was used by the Chinese as early as 100 BC, and by blacksmiths in ancient Greece. For centuries, wood was the main source of fuel in Europe, but by the 1600s it was getting scarce. England, however, had huge amounts of coal and led the way in using coal as a fuel. Amazingly enough, it was coal and beer that set the stage for our modern industrialized society. Brewmasters in England made a discovery that played a big part in the Industrial Revolution. Brewmasters began to use coal to dry the malt that goes into beer. At first, it didn't work, because the coal gave off fumes that made the beer bitter. To get rid of the fumes, they started baking coal in ovens. They didn't know it then, but they were making coke. And even today, coke is an important part of making iron and steel. It was coal that fueled the Industrial Revolution. With the discovery of coke, ironworks sprang up all across Europe. At about the same time, the first commercial steam engine was being put into use, powered by coal, and that led to factories that could mass-produce consumer goods. We take it for granted that we can walk into a store and buy just about anything, but that's possible thanks to coal, fueling the Industrial Revolution. Coal was just as important in Canada. In the mid-1600s, coal was being mined in the Maritimes and used as a source of heat and energy. It was later exported to Boston and other seaports for fueling steamships. In Western Canada, coal mining really got underway after the arrival of the railroad. The railroads brought settlers who needed coal. Trains brought a way to transport coal, and to complete the circle, trains were fueled by coal. Most miners lived in company towns, and when all the coal in one spot was gone, the mine, and often the entire town, was moved to a new site.
Coal was a major source of energy up until the 1940s.
At that time, major oil and gas discoveries were made in Alberta, and soon oil and natural gas replaced coal for home heating, and trains were converted from coal to diesel.
Canada's coal mining towns faced an uncertain future. But just about the time the last steam engine was converted to diesel, Japan started buying Canadian coal for its steel industry. At the same time, Alberta and Saskatchewan turned to their huge reserves of coal to generate electricity. The coal industry started to boom, and it hasn't looked back since. Today, Japan and 17 other countries rely on Canadian coal for their steel industries and for electricity, and those exports are extremely important to Canada's economy.
Okay, Rio, that was great. We'll go back to the top, try it again. Just keep an eye on the distance from the mic, okay?
Okay.
Beat up, beat up. Say, some say. Some say they're longing to discover.
This is Rio. She's a singer. Here in Alberta and many other provinces, coal makes it possible for musicians of all kinds to electrify their sound.
Hiding from emotion, spinning lies.
6 of Canada's 10 provinces use coal to produce electricity. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Nova Scotia get most of their electricity from coal. Coal is also used to produce electricity in Manitoba, Ontario, and New Brunswick. Canada's coal-fired power plants all generate electricity the same way. Coal arrives at the generating plant and is stored. When it's needed, the coal is crushed to a fine powder. The powdered coal is blown into a chamber lined with water-filled pipes. Then it's burned at temperatures as hot as 1300 degrees centigrade, and the intense heat turns the water in the pipes to steam. The steam is sent to a turbine, which has a central shaft with thousands of propeller-like blades. The steam pushes against these blades and forces the shaft to turn. As the shaft turns, it rotates machinery inside a generator, and electricity is produced.
Some say. Some say.
Power lines carry electricity to towns and businesses, providing them with reliable and inexpensive electricity.